you're on a car. What's going on, guys? It's not Neo13 here for the first time in quite some time. First time properly, of course. You're on a car. Because I don't have a tripod. That was a fun way to learn. But I'm here today with something a little bit different. Definitely more direct, but still a lot of editing. It's a video that I had in the works for like ages, and I just made a decision. I said fuck it, and so I decided to finish it. I just, it was a point of pride for me that I was so sure that I had to do it, and I have so much, but I don't know why, because even since I started making this video, my opinion has changed a lot. Like, a lot of things have been added and taken and changed, and like, but the base idea is of course the same. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I can throw on that. I guess without further ado, take it away, me. Get off the car.
The Mario & Luigi series is one that always struck me as quite odd. Nintendo, already having a Mario RPG series with Paper Mario at the time 2 games in and going strong, they decided to hand off the Mario name to a small dev team called Alpha Dream, with very little under their belt at the time. They worked under Nintendo's supervision and released the widely acclaimed Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, and it wasn't long before Nintendo had them working on a sequel, Partners in Time. This game, for me, encapsulates everything that I love about the series. A fun gimmick, but not one that changes up the gameplay all too much. Bowser's Inside Story. And a quite cute use of the DS's new dual screens. This game, without a doubt, has my favourite tracks and locations of the entire series, with absolute bangers like the chill, gritty desert. I always throw on in the background, and the devastation that comes with the final boss theme as you eradicate this entire species just to save your own. The range of music that comes with the game is phenomenal, and the gameplay, as always, is top-notch. I personally see this as the best Mario & Luigi game. With the not-so-recent anymore announcement and subsequent release of Metroid Dread, I decided it was finally time to give the Metroid series, which I had long neglected, a chance. All the games were fairly accessible, so I decided there was no harm. What ensued was one of the most miserable, confusing experiences of my life. After giving up midway through, I decided the series just was not for me. However, fast approaching on the release of Dread, I decided to look at the critically acclaimed Super Metroid. I was instantly in love. Super Metroid is flawlessly designed. You are smoothly funneled into travelling to different areas so that you can get all the necessary items for your progression, but for me, it's the replay that makes the game so amazing. Nothing will compare to having mastered the wall jump and going to get different items much earlier than you should be able to. But the best bit about this is that the level design is so tight that it all seems intentional. If they want you to be able to get an item early, it won't be easy, but you'll know it's possible, and it's that level of curiosity that keeps me revisiting this game. To be honest, there's not much that I think I could say about this game that hasn't been said a million times over on the internet. The voice acting, the comedy, the puzzles, it's all blended so perfectly into this perfect little package, and I don't think my words could do it justice. The way Stephen Merchant arrives on in this cute little blue core named Wheatley, an absolute fucking moron, but keeps you going throughout the first couple of hours of the game, and then gets completely thrown into the trash because, oh look who's back, it's GLaDOS. It just works so smoothly. The game never overstays its welcome, it never tires you of its writing, and it knows when to talk and when to shut up. The Portal gameplay is of course flawless. Jumping through these quantum tunnels, carrying your momentum all throughout, leading you to various different locations. Holy shit, are the speedruns of this game cool. Back in 2005, Sony was still pumping out potential console mascots. The time of Spyro the Dragon and Crash the Bandicoot... that's not what he's called. The time of Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot had passed. PlayStation's audience were more mature now and looking for something a bit more gritty and demanding of them. A story with characters they can care for, and oh man, did Sony deliver with God of War. In God of War, we follow Kratos, a warrior in the Spartan army, in the world of the Olympian gods. The first game follows Kratos' story as he travels to the Temple of Pandora in order to fight Ares and get revenge for the death of his family. After Kratos' success, he is gifted the title of God of War and given the powers of a god. The second game, of course taking place after the first, follows Kratos' journey to once again take revenge on the gods of Olympus who once again betrayed him. After having his powers and all of Sparta and even his life taken from him by none other than the king of gods, Zeus, Kratos vows to destroy all of Olympus for what they did to him. What follows is one of the most badass journeys I have ever seen as Kratos travels from location to location on the back of a Pegasus in order to meet the Sisters of Motherfucking Fate and have his fate given at the hand of Zeus changed. No prob, you know? The gameplay, no surprise, from beginning to end is relentless, but nothing feels better than pulling off a heavy combo or slinging a projectile right back at an enemy. The game only barely surpasses the rest of the series due to its story and much more varied set pieces, where, you know, the first game just kind of takes place in a temple and then... yeah. The Pikmin series, having lay dormant for quite some time now, ignoring the mobile game and whatever that monstrosity on the 3DS was, I think it's safe to say that a sequel should be along any day now. Any day now. But in the meantime, it has given me a chance to revisit the series time and time again, and it solidified the first game as my favourite. The isolation you feel playing as Hakitation Captain Olimar, alone in this mysterious foreign land with hostile creatures at every turn, but he has the cute Pikmin by his side all throughout. The first game keeps it simple with your 31 ship parts that you have to get, but that is perfect, I think. Where, in the company of Louis in the second game, and the exploration of caves at your own pace, the constant time constraints and stress you are under in this game is perfect for the atmosphere the game tries to create. The third game attempts to emulate the time constraints similar to the first one, and it is a step in the right direction, but it still pales in comparison, as if you were anyway good at the game and keep on top of things, you will have more than enough juice supply to last you the entire game in, like, only a couple of days. The first game is simple but perfect, and remains on top for the foreseeable future. This game is the Dark Souls of gaming. Okay, jokes aside, when I first went into Dark Souls, I hated it, to be honest. It was just far too difficult for me, and I could not wrap my head around all the stats and numbers going around. When I finished Dark Souls, I loved it. The gorgeous lore and yet easy to follow story is fantastic, as it rewards you if you want to know more, but it doesn't scold you for just running through guns Okay, it does a bit, but you know. When I platinum Dark Souls... What? No.
I swear to God if he's dead.
No, I'm never fucking playing this game again. It was without a doubt the worst experience I'd ever had with a video game. Ignoring the fact that I managed to kill Blacksmith Vamos, forcing me to do an entire extra run up to that point, platinuming Dark Souls was just a painful slog of farming for sunlight medals and souls, and more sunlight medals. So why do I love this game so much? If you take Dark Souls as what I think it's supposed to be, then I can see an amazing game. It contains some of the most fun gameplay that I've ever experienced, and in a nearly sadistic way, nothing compares to the victory screen you see when you finally kill that boss that's been decimating you all week. The slow development for me from heavy rolling in knight armor with a grass crest shield and a broadsword to ninja rolling in Chester's clothes just for decoration with a lightning spear felt absolutely amazing and just so rewarding. The Mega Man series was one which I had tried to get into for so long, but I just never could enjoy it. The amazing music always kept me coming back, but I just never found that I could really enjoy the gameplay, because it was just too slow for me. There was a lot of thinking that came before making a move, which I was not accustomed to. If you just jumped and shot your lemons all over the place, you'd die in seconds. But flash to years later and Capcom make an announcement. The Mega Man X Legacy Collections. I didn't care. But jump again to a couple more years later and something strange overcame me. I saw the two Legacy Collections on sale for the Nintendo Switch, and so I decided to hell with it and pick the two up. Very quickly did it become one of my favourite series of all time, up to X5, Having stocked 52 hours into the collections and beaten X too many times to count with different routes, correct routes, buster only, no dash, I think to say I love this game is an understatement. Hell, I even went out and got an SNES Classic just to see what the game would have been like on original hardware. And also to emulate a lot of SNES games, but don't tell Nintendo. Shadow of the Colossus came at a weird time in my life where I thought I was growing out of video games. None of them seemed to interest me until I found this unique looking PS2 game sitting on a shelf in CEX. I decided to pick it up and went home and played it. And I distinctly remember staying up all night just to finish it. This game is mystical and reminded me of just how interesting and different video games can be as a form of media. The lack of direction you're given in this game, or really any explanation as to where you are or what is going on, creates such an air of anxiety fighting these giant behemoth creatures. However, these creatures, Colossi as they're called, what did they even do wrong? They were just peacefully existing in their own domain. Sure, you could argue that they do fight you, but you try and tell me that a little ant comes along aggressively shouting and climbing all over you with a little sword, that you wouldn't get a little bit pissed too. Take the 13th Colossus, deemed Phalanx by the community. It will in no way directly attack you, but instead just flies throughout the desert, just trying to exist, seemingly trapped within the confines of his battle arena. It makes you wonder. I won't beat around the bush here. I view Celeste as one of, if not, the greatest game ever created. There was absolutely no denying that the game came at a difficult time in my life, dealing with the height of my anxiety while trying to get used to some changes that had come in my life. But it was there for me. It's a game I'm almost afraid to talk about because of the issues it deals with. But with that said, I will give it my best shot. Celeste follows the adventure of Madeline. Madeline is a 21-year-old woman struggling with depression and anxiety. She decides to climb Mount Celeste in an effort to prove to herself that she is capable of overcoming any challenge. Along the way, she quite literally fights against a part of herself. The game's gameplay is incredibly tight and demands highly of the player's skills, the farther into the game you get. The music in the game, composed by the incredibly talented Lena Raine, is the greatest I've ever heard in a video game, but we will come back to that. Near the end of the game, Madeline is nearing the summit of the mountain, but falls all the way back down to the ground again. After an all-out battle against part of herself, she talks it out and accepts that this is, in fact, a part of her. And rather than trying to fight it, she accepts it as such and works on herself, understanding herself better, both the good and the bad parts. She then works with herself to reach the summit. I think this is maybe a simple but amazing lesson in self-acceptance, the step that I think is necessary in all self-help. A year after the game came out, the creators came back to release one final chapter, Chapter 9, Farewell. I view Farewell as not only the perfect send-off to the game, but perhaps the most impeccable video game experience that there is. Every part of it has a purpose. The chapter opens with us finding out about the death of a main character throughout the game, Granny, our sort of mentor during the climb. However, Madeline sees a bird that always used to be with Granny and decides to follow it into space, thinking that there may be some way to bring Granny back, or that the bird may be part of her, similar to Madeline's part of herself. The first part of the level is the first stage of grief for Madeline about Granny's death. She is in denial about it, and tries to follow the bird in the attempts of bringing Granny back, or finding something more. She is abandoned by part of herself, and she has to make the journey alone. Lena Raine once again returned for the final chapter, and created what I view as the best album in all of video game history. Each individual part of the level is separated by both theme and music, and the denial that Madeline has is beautifully reflected in the music, where it all sounds very cautious, reflecting how Madeline is unsure of where she is, and maybe nervous of what lies ahead, unaware as to what it could be. Yet the music is very confident, sounding with steady rhythm, and this is also how I think Madeline feels. Without overthinking it, she has already made the decision, and regardless of what danger there may be, she is doing this. However, we reach the motif. This eerie theme which creates an air of anxiety and mystery that will continue to occur throughout the chapter. Next, we reach the second part of the level, a much brighter area with music to once again reflect this. Madeline is closing in on the end of the level. It must be near. She knows it, the music knows it. She wades on through the level with this upbeat music and elegant strings playing until she reaches the final crystal heart of the game. But no, this can't be it, right? Madeline refuses to accept that this could be the end. There has to be more to all of this, some meaning. The bird. The level doesn't end, but instead, Madeline continues on and everything suddenly changes. There is a constant drone humming in the background as Madeline goes deeper than she was ever meant to. She finally catches up to the bird, but it once again escapes her grasp. Frustrated as to why the bird won't let her help it, she makes it her mission to catch it and find out what has happened to Granny. The music once again changes and is now a much faster tempo to echo Madeline's mental state. She's being driven by a deep anger because of how helpless she feels. Nobody will help her, and so she decides she'll save Granny on her own, by whatever means necessary. But it's that motif. It's still there, lingering in the background. Sure, it's quieter now, more suppressed, but it's there nonetheless. Madeline is still afraid. It is here that the true challenge begins in the gameplay. Everything up to this point was child's play compared to what Madeline will now have to endure. If you, the player, do manage to reach the end of this section, Madeline is confronted by part of herself. It says that she needs to stop. This is all a dream and Granny is gone for good. She needs to accept that. Madeline angrily drives part of herself away, saying that she doesn't need her help and she will do it alone. Everything changes. The music is now a simple, continuous two-tone beat. A distant beat that echoes throughout the stage. The colours also change at this point. Madeline is all alone, and even the bright, vibrant colours in her world seem bland. The level design had completely changed from tight, split-second time movements to free, loose areas. Everything around her is empty. Madeline is on a knife's edge and could easily fall at any moment. This is, of course, our next stage of grief, depression. Thankfully, this does not carry on for too long until Madeline catches up to the bird and she furiously asks where Granny is, but the bird appears hurt from getting caught. Madeline stops and she realises the consequences of her actions. She pushed people away and hurt them all to try and find the answer that she knew wasn't there. Part of her begs her to stop, but she says she can't. She has one final thing to do. She accepts that Granny is gone, but the bird is still trapped here because of her. The music changes one final time, but this time it's sure of itself. A steady, triumphant beat begins to build upon itself, getting more complex throughout the rest of the screens. Madeline gets the support she needed from those around her, the bird and part of herself, and she journeys to the end. The music here is absolutely incredible. It implements both the motif from the first couple of chapters in the game that played whenever part of Madeline was around, and the motif from throughout the entire level, but here it's no longer an eerie, uncomfortable theme that sticks out from everything else, but it's now accompanied by all range of instruments, and is instead a theme of courage and strong will. She reaches the final screen, a 2-minute long test of everything that you have learned up to this point, and most especially patience. This level is not designed to be tackled all at once. Similar to Madeline and how she deals with grief, you need to take this at your own pace, and it can be as quick or as long as you want it to be, but there is no rush. You take your time that you need. The game even reassures you to keep going just a couple of more tries if you fail 100 times on the final screen. I won't lie, I did in fact cry like a baby when I finally reached the end of this level after a year of trying it on and off. This game was such a big part of the last few years of my life, and I deeply want to thank the team for creating it. In 1998, director Hideo Kojima of Konami would release a game that would forever change video games. Metal Gear Solid was the third game in the Metal Gear series and was released for the PlayStation 1. It follows espionage operative Solid Snake through his infiltration of the Shadow Moses nuclear disposal facility. He's tasked with stopping the terrorist group who are threatening to launch a nuke on America if they don't receive $20 million and the remains of the legendary mercenary Big Boss. He must go alone with nothing more than radio support. And there you have the plot of the game. Now, graphically this game holds up about as well as a House of Cards in an earthquake, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't a technical marvel for its time. The game made extensive use of cutscenes to the point where sometimes it felt closer to watching a movie unfold than playing a video game. Hell, one of the later games in the series holds the world record for the longest cutscene in a video game, clocking in at 74 minutes. It changed the way video game stories were told for the foreseeable future. There was so much content, in fact, that it was required to be split into 2 discs because of storage limitations on the PS1. The gameplay of this game is not the best in the series, but it's probably my favourite because there's a finite amount of ways that a situation can play out with isolated rooms containing numbered guards who follow set paths compared to Metal Gear Solid 5's infinite amount of possibilities. There's something really rewarding about being able to go back and learn all the pathing and being able to deal with this, knowing exactly how to deal with a situation. The game's soundtrack is nothing if not iconic, with the gorgeous song The Best Is Yet to Come, sung Ascuelga, but also themes like the Encounter theme, which never fails to frighten the shit out of me when I've been spotted unawares. In my opinion, this game has the best story of the series, as it keeps it simple enough. This was before it went entirely off the rails with the batshit insane stuff that you've probably seen online in the likes of Metal Gear Rising. Not that I don't love that writing too. But this game is simple for anyone to understand, and stands alone fairly well if it weren't for the end of credit scene which sets up too. The game even manages to fit in a nice little message of live every day like it's your last. I have a personal attachment to this series, with the characters being as charming and fun as they are, and I think that at least in the first game it keeps it grounded enough to the point where you don't view it as this ridiculous impossible world, but rather just this charming man who happens to be quite good at his line of work.
So, there you have it. That is my definitive list of the top 10 greatest games of all time. No, obviously, I'm joking. That is my top 10 list of my opinion, which is subject to change sometime in the next 6 months. The entire list could be different. But, I don't know. Just felt like sharing it. So I really hoped that you guys enjoyed the video. If so, something feels wrong about asking leave a like and subscribe. I've never done that before, have I? Well, It's up to you. Do what you want. Hope you like the video. And thank you very much for watching.